We're back on Public Affairs on Peach, and we're talking this weekend about LGBTQ issues. Now, this segment is Audrey Krumbach. She's an interim executive director of Lost and Found Youth. Audrey, you've only been on the job for 4 days.
I have.
Are you ready for the hot seat?
Some issues are too urgent to wait.
Yeah, you know, the work that your agency does boggles my mind, especially when it comes to the statistics of youth that are LGBT and they're homeless.
Absolutely. I think many of the homeless numbers in Atlanta right now are truly shocking. On any given night, there are 3,500 young people who are homeless, and of those, between 800 and 900 probably identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender.
You know, for someone who's watching this and go, well, what really is the difference? If you're homeless, you're homeless. What separates a person who is homeless versus those who identify themselves through gender or sexuality?
Tragically, many lesbian, gay, bisexual, and especially transgender young people have experienced discrimination in their schools, their families, their churches, or even in homeless shelters, and they're looking for specialized resources. There are some particular programs we can offer as well as helping a transgender person change the gender mark on their birth certificate.
Curious, for someone who, the transgender, may have the bigger issue because for them, if you go into a homeless shelter, will they allow them to go there if they identify with a gender that is not biologically what they are?
I'm proud to say most of the shelters in Atlanta do accept people for their gender as identified. But we still have some who refuse to place people in general homeless populations or in a specific gender program unless it corresponds. That depends on their age. If someone's HIV positive, there's a program called Living Room that works with transgender individuals especially, and Lost and Found's Drop-In Center is always open to anyone regardless of gender or sexual orientation who's between the ages of 18 and 26. Additional programs are the Transgender Housing Alliance program, THAP. It's a great program, provides specific for transgender resources for housing.
You know, I've been doing some research and I want to bring this up. Street outreach is a big part of your mission.
Yes.
How are you able to identify the kids who are homeless, that LGBTQ, versus the ones who are just homeless?
We'll work with anyone. We actually do not discriminate based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Anyone can come to our drop-in center, call our hotline, or earn a place in our transitional housing program. But we find that when we go out and we tell people with Lost and Found that we're intentionally inclusive of people who are LGBT, the kids come and find us as well. So we show up at the tent city and they come find us.
You have these staggering statistics of the LGBT community that is homeless. Is it that they've lost their jobs and they've become homeless, or is it other extenuating circumstances that are making this defined population so much more vulnerable?
Young people are vulnerable for many reasons. It's so hard to have a job that actually pays enough to make housing here in Atlanta. You need to be making almost a $16 wage to live in Atlanta, and that's hard to find for any young person. And for LGBT people, discrimination, as Jeff Graham often talks about, we don't allow, here in Georgia, you can discriminate against someone based on their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And so many of our youth, when they do come out, are finding it more difficult to find a job. Or they have left school because the discrimination they experienced there was difficult, and so they need a GED or they're working toward their diploma before they can look for work.
You have such a huge task before you because funding for just a homeless shelter, it's so hard to get funding. Everyone is struggling, and you have such a niche community that you're helping. Are you getting government funds, or how are you funding this?
Lost and Found has actually never received any government funds. We are funded about 40% by our thrift stores and the incredible generosity of the Atlanta community, individual donors, corporate donors, people who have just said, I believe no one should be homeless, especially someone who is vulnerable because they are young and because they're lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, anything.
What age groups are we talking about that you see that are coming into the agency that you're working with?
Our drop-in center and our housing program provide specific services for people 18 to 24, but we have a 24/7 hotline, and we'll answer questions of all ages with a real focus on services for people of 18 to 36.
Okay, and before we let you go, I know that your organization has a 24-hour crisis support line.
Yes.
Let's give the number out for that.
Absolutely. That number is 678-856-7825.
What if someone wants to work with your group? What is your suggestion?
We would love for them to come by the thrift store. It's on Chantilly, right by Cheshire Bridge in 85, or our thrift store in Norcross. Stop by, say hello, or find us online at LNFY, that's Lost and Found Youth, lnfy.org.
So if someone wanted to just donate, they show up there and they just make a donation?
They could absolutely show up and make a donation or do that online.
Without these donations, real quickly, what is the impact that it would have with the work that you're doing?
Without the donations, we would not have 6 emergency beds, and we would not have showers, meals, and counseling services to help these young adults get HIV tested, get jobs, get high school diplomas, and eventually get off the streets.
Okay, I have to ask you this question before we let you go, because you said there's 3,500 homeless LGBTQ.
900 LGBTQ, 3,500 total young adults.
Okay, 900 for the community that you're working with.
Yes.
You only have 6 beds. So
We
how
only
many
have
people are
6
you
beds.
turning away?
Too many. We work deeply in partnership with many other great organizations. And so about 2/3 of the young adults who come to our drop-in center are staying with one of our partner organizations. And we are fundraising and working aggressively to get that number of beds up.
Okay, and they told me I got to wrap, but I have to ask you this. For the transgender that can't get into a regular shelter, you don't have the beds because you only have 6, where do they go?
Tell them to call our hotline. Tell them to call us. We do have enough partnerships with safe places. We will help them find a safe place to go.
Okay, well, you have a lot of work to do, and the services that you provide are priceless. We thank you for your time. Audrey Krumbach with a wonderful organization called Lost and Found Youth. All right, folks, we're not done yet. When we come back, a group that works with people of color who are HIV positive. Don't go away.